slightly perturbed
A veure,
by the Hellman's mayonnaise bucket.
ha estat l'organització, ha insistit, l'organització ha insistit en que tinguéssim aquest pot de Hellmann's aquí, Peter Hook. Jo no sé, jo per pudor no explicaré el què. Vols explicar-ho tu?
I need my translation.
Okay. It doesn't work. Okay.
No, it doesn't work.
Sí?
Hello, I've got you.
Hola? Ok, molt bé, la meva també.
Okay, I'm on.
Jo deia que l'organització ha insistit en posar aquest pot de Hellmann's aquí i que jo per pudor, no sé, saps? Jo els he dit, home, si potser el necessita i aleshores jo dic que no em costa, però el que passa és que potser els hi hauríem d'explicar, no? Tu mateix, Què fa aquest pot de Hellmann's aquí? Aviam, d'on pot venir?
I must admit, I never expected to see one tonight. And it is a great shame that I've just been to the toilet. The Hellman's mayonnaise bucket was kept in the kitchen at the Haçienda for my personal use. If, as we say in England, I was caught short. One of the problems with the Haçienda as a club was the lack of toilets. So if you were desperate, you had a problem, and because I knew the young lady in the kitchen very well, she enabled me to relieve myself in the bucket, and it's one of the perks. If that's, I don't know what the Spanish word for perk would be, of being the owner of the nightclub.
Jo, en tot cas, espero que no l'hagis de fer servir. Si l'has de fer servir, en tot cas, no hi haurà interrupcions aquí mateix. Escolta, és possible, Peter Hook, que no sapigueu la quantitat de diners que heu guanyat amb Blue Monday? Tot el que heu arribat a guanyar.
Oh my God. Because it was a single, not a lot. And also, it's still the biggest selling 12-inch of all time. But regrettably, the sleeve actually cost more to produce than the record earned. So every copy of Blue Monday that was sold, we lost 50p. So €0.75 for every one sold. And the record company didn't spot it until about 750,000 copies. Yeah, I mean, you know, our story is a catalogue of disasters. But we are still here, we are still listening to Blue Monday, we are still enjoying Blue Monday, and still smiling. So really, they are interesting stories. I mean, it's quite systematic of our attitude. Our attitude was naive, it was punky. We didn't take anything too seriously. And yeah, it could have been disastrous, but as I sit here at the ripe old age of 63, comfortable,
s'ha tret les sabates, està fantàsticament bé.
Yeah, you know.
Crec que hem començat bé. Sí. A veure, Peter Hook, s'obren les presentacions, que ens les hem saltat, baixista i fundador de la més que influent banda Joy Division i de la més que exitosa New Order. I a més, soci i cofundador també de la mítica sala de Haçienda, que al llarg dels 16 anys que va estar oberta a Manchester va ser bressol del So Manchester i a més doncs, va transformar el panorama de clubs com a mínim a Anglaterra. Tot plegat ho explica en aquest llibre que Contra acaba de publicar en castellà, que es diu de Haçienda, cómo no dirigir un club. Ell ja ens ha apuntat algunes de les coses, detallets, que en definitiva queden com una anècdota, però que no van acabar de sortir bé. Des del punt de vista econòmic va ser un autèntic forat negre pels seus propietaris. La meitat era de Factory Records i l'altra meitat era de tots els integrants de New Order. En aquest llibre, que si encara no l'heu llegit, la veritat és que us el recomano perquè està ple, absolutament ple d'anècdotes que expliquen segurament aquesta cara B d'aquest míting local que no coneixem. És a dir, coneixem la llegenda però no tot el que va suposar per ells. Al principi del llibre, Peter dius, he seguit el consell de la meva mare. Quan dius, Peter et deia, no? Digues la veritat, tota la veritat, que no tindràs mai cap problema. Jo no sé si ho sostens encara ara, després d'aquell llibre agivolat sol, i alguns dels seus protagonistes t'hagin llegit.
I still believe in telling the truth, yes. The interesting thing I've learnt is that everybody has a different idea of the truth. And if you sit myself, Bernard, Stephen down, we will all have different ideas of the truth. Our stories will all be different. So the thing is that I suppose you have to respect and say that the actual truth is a combination. My mother was a wonderful, wonderful woman, and I miss her every day. So she was very hard on me as a mother. She was a great mentor. And yeah, I still believe that it's very difficult being in a group because people always have an idea of how you live and how you are with each other, which is not the truth. And generally they don't like their aspirations or dreams shattered by you being honest. And if you read my 3 books, Joy Division, New Order, and the Haçienda, none of them have a happy ending. They are quite abrupt in their telling of the truth. It's not a pretty story. And I think that as an audience member myself, when I look at my favorite groups, I don't like to hear of their problems because I have enough problems of my own. We use music as an escape. And as the world is very difficult, as we all know, and we take that hour and a half, or the hour that you have here, or when a group plays, when you go to a festival, you want to escape the realities of life. I was aware while I was writing the books that I was dispelling a lot of myths and a lot of the specialness of how people perceive groups, how people perceive my life. But I had to tell the truth of how it affected me and how it happened. So people can choose whether they believe you or not. I mean, the audience are a jury, aren't they? And every time you appear before this jury, you have to earn their belief, if you like, their trust. And when I was listening to the applause for Nick just a second ago, he obviously made an impression that worked. So the thing is that with the books and with how I talk to people, I'm hoping that I can implore them, if you like, or convince them that I am telling the truth. Yeah. And what I say is trustworthy, yeah.
Doncs comencem per de Haçienda. En quin moment tot va començar a sortir malament? En aquest club que és mític, que és una llegenda?
Oh my God.
El primer dia?
I didn't expect that question. It was so gradual that it didn't actually appear to have gone wrong. It's like when somebody gets ill, their illness, whatever it is, starts very gradually. Ian's started very gradually, and we were able to ignore most of it, as he was. It was only towards the end of Joy Division when his illness began to take over his life and the group that you couldn't ignore it. Ian was a wonderful person. The last thing that he ever wanted was to upset you, me. And he went out of his way to play down his symptoms. And the puzzling and confusing thing was that he was obviously hurt and suffering, and yet you'd say to him, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" You know, and he'd go, "Yeah, I'm absolutely fine. Come on, let's go." And you'd go, "Oh yeah," because that was what you wanted to hear. He was very clever in that respect, in playing down his illness. So every time something bad happened, like his suicide attempt or anything to do with that, you would be shocked, and then you'd meet him, and he would convince you almost immediately that he was okay. And you'd be like, "What the fuck?" Ugh. You know, because ultimately we were so young. We were 21, 22, and very ill-equipped to handle anything like that. And there were many more people there who were older, much more experienced than we were. So we were quite far down the pecking order. But it still left you with an immense feeling of guilt. Even now, you know, I still have, you know, I suppose it's a weird kind of survivor's guilt. And you always have to live with his death. I will always have to live with it.
Parlarem de l'Ian i vull parlar específicament més endavant, però no voldria deixar passar aquest primer part d'aquesta entrevista de parlar de Haçienda. Tu deies ara, érem molt joves, és a dir, us vau posar en un negoci que gairebé havia de respondre en principi a les vostres inquietuds, de tenir un local on gent com vosaltres es pogués trobar, no? Gent de Manchester que tenia una inquietud musical, una inquietud cultural, però en canvi no us el veu fer vostre, el club d'Haçienda, d'entrada.
No, yes, I was blissfully ignorant at the beginning, and it was the best way actually, because I was able to go to the club.
Però vau posar molts calés.
Not at the start. I didn't know the ramifications of the money. As far as I was concerned, it was quite small. That wasn't the truth. But we were strangers to the truth for about 4 or 5 years. And during that period was the best period, because I was able to go and enjoy the Haçienda just like anybody else. Apart from the fact that I got free drinks. The most expensive free drinks in the world, but they were free. And as everybody knows, if you want to distract a musician, all you have to do is give him a few free drinks and he's yours, basically. So I was, blissful, naive, and I was having a great time. It came crashing down in about 1984, 85, and the Haçienda, as is recounted in the book, got in trouble with the taxman, which is ironically called La Haçienda.
Sí, Hacienda, justamente. Justo.
I live in Mallorca. So I understand.
Sonava d'alguna cosa.
I understand your pain. So we got in trouble with the taxman, And then when that happened, we were dragged in to the taxman who sat opposite, and he said, "What the fuck are you doing?" We went, "We don't know, we're just musicians, we're really stupid." And he went, "I can tell that, yeah." But it is no excuse. Ignorance is no excuse, especially with the taxman. So we were dragged into it, and at that point, the Haçienda was in so much trouble that it looked impossible to get out of. You couldn't get rid of it. You would have lost everything you owned if you'd bankrupted it. So we were in a very difficult position, and we were struggling to find a way to cope. We did get a few accolades. We had the biggest tax fine of any English group, even to date. So there's an accolade. No English pop group has been fined as much as we were for our shortcomings. So yeah, and once you realize the amount of money, considering I was on €50 a week, the Haçienda was losing 15,000 a month. And I was like, wow. You know, we were actually poor. And that was after Blue Monday. Blue Monday's success, the album's successes. Yeah, it was a very strange, it made you question, you know, what everything was about. It added to the confusion a lot.
L'inici de Haçienda és aquest concert que ara veurem i que reprodueix la pel·lícula 20 Hour Party People, que reprodueix d'alguna manera la necessitat de gent com vosaltres a Manchester de trobar un local singular per vosaltres. Podem veure el vídeo?
Los Sex Pistols tocan en Manchester por primera vez. Solo hay 42 personas en el local, pero todos se alimentan de un gran poder, energía y magia. Inspirados, llevarán a cabo hazañas memorables. Por ejemplo, Howard Devoto, ese de ahí, y Pete Shelley, el de ahí atrás, han organizado este concierto. Van por delante de todos en Manchester, ya son los Buzzcocks. Howard se acostará con mi mujer. A mi espalda, los Steve Kittens. Pronto serán Warshow, luego Joy Division y finalmente New Order.
Eres en aquest concert de Sex Pistols. Quin tipus d'adolescent eres?
I was a very normal teenager.
Sí.
I was, again, blissful in my ignorance. I worked at Manchester Town Hall. I used to finish at 5 and go out with my friends and drink and dance. I had weekends off. It was wonderful. And then I went to see the Sex Pistols, and I became a musician that night. I never played an instrument. Yeah, I'd never written a song, and my life changed completely. I mean, that depiction is actually quite accurate in that there was nobody in the audience. This audience here is 10 times, 20 times the size of the audience that the Sex Pistols had that night. So, and many people in the audience went on to form groups, big groups, Mick Hucknall, Mark E. Smith, Pete Shelley, Magazine, the Buzzcocks, many people, also Paul Morley, journalist, Kevin Cummins, photographers. There were, everybody at that concert was inspired. The interesting thing was that the Sex Pistols were shit. So the inspiration came from somewhere else. You know, I mean, I was watching Johnny Rotten telling everyone to fuck off. And I thought, I could do that. I could tell everyone to fuck off, yeah. And then someone said to me, you're going to have to buy an instrument. I was like, oh, shit. And I went and bought my guitar the next day. And I said to the guy in the shop, I need a bass guitar. Because Bernard had told me I needed a bass guitar. I didn't know what a bass guitar was. And the guy gave me one. He said, how about this one? And I went, right, fine, give it here. And I said, hang on. I said, it's only got 4 strings. And he went, yeah, a bass only has 4 strings. I'm like, oh. So he gave me 2 black bin liners to wrap the guitar in. And I went home on the bus with my guitar in 2 bin liners. And then when I got home, my father laughed at me. Said, what the fuck are you going to do with that? And at that point, I had no idea. No idea.
Va veure el teu èxit, el teu pare?
Yeah, it was my stepfather, so we didn't have a great relationship.
No.
He resented, I feel, my success because then I was able to buy things for my mother, and I bought him a car, and he didn't like it, and now I understand. I didn't understand when I was young.
No.
And yeah, it was a little bit stupid of me, to be honest. I think he felt emasculated by my success, which was a bit weird. But that's, things you learn from age. Is maybe you need to be a little bit gentler, a little bit kinder. But when I was a kid, I'd made money. I was like, "Way, here's a car," and he'd go, "You fucker," What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. So no, but my mother was perpetually puzzled by my success. My brother is a policeman, and she always wanted me to have a job like him. My brother is a very successful policeman, actually. And that made it even worse, in that she never felt that me being a musician was honorable or, regardless of the money.
Yeah.
She didn't feel it was a proper job.
En tot cas, aquell concert de Sex Pistols us va canviar. Tot va canviar, et vas anar a comprar el baix i us va canviar molts, perquè no sé què hi havia, quin microclima hi havia allà a Manchester, perquè surten Joy Division, després New Order, The Stone Roses, Happy Mondays, The Smiths, que van fer els seus primers concerts també a Haçienda. Tu per què creus que aquest fenomen musical va passar a Manchester? I posem un vídeo d'introducció d'aquest blog, perquè això s'ho preguntaven en aquest reportatge de l'MTV el 1990.
But for over a decade now, Manchester has been England's musical mecca, producing bands like The Fall, Joy Division and New Order, The Smiths, and most recently The Stone Roses. Here's more.
Oh, Manchester, so much to answer for.
Manchester's always had this image of being a bit dour and a bit sort of Joy Division and raincoats and things like that, and people can understand so much of that,
Looking for the next big thing in pop music? You may need to look no further than Manchester, England. A decade or so ago, Manchester was the wet, gloomy, altogether unlikely spawning ground of such now celebrated doom rock groups as The Fall, The Smiths, Joy Division, and New Order. What is there about this deeply unlovely city that's nurtured so much great music?
Tu què creus?
I don't know specifically.
Era l'aigua? Era l'aigua de Manchester?
Well, it could be. I wish I knew the answer, because obviously I would be on my yacht in the Caribbean. The thing was is that it was very industrial. It was very grey, it was very grim. The political climate at that time was not very hopeful. It was not very optimistic. It's pretty much the same as it is now. Don't start me on Brexit, Jesus. The thing is that you were desperate in a way to escape. It was a very unpretty city. The Conservatives, you had the 4-day week. The electricity was going off all the time. There was massive pollution. Everywhere felt grey, cold, and rainy. And it was grim. It was grim. You know, when they say it was grim up north, it was. And we were desperate to escape. Ironically, we're one of the only groups to make it big in Manchester and stay in Manchester. I still live, you know, apart from Mallorca. I have a very good life. I live half the year in Manchester and half in Mallorca. So I get both sides, you know, which is interesting. But yeah, I mean, it was grim. But there was a culture, the talent at that time, musically, was very rich. Now, most cities, particularly in England, that's what I'm the expert on, have a renaissance where they have a period where their bands are valid and their bands are successful. Sheffield, Leeds, London, Manchester, they all have phases. Manchester's phase has lasted the longest. Manchester was a huge musical force for about 20 years. It's waned since. Now it isn't the same. Yeah. It's different now. I don't know why, but it's true. But we had a wonderful time. I mean, it's interesting if you look at the Haçienda as a club, it started its life by celebrating English music. It was a concert venue. It was a bad club. There was nobody in the club. Then we went through Acid House, which we stole from Ibiza. Weird. Brought it to England. It went, wow, it went wild, you know. The ecstasy explosion and the club, the music. Celebrating Detroit, which again was a very deprived musical city. Chicago, a deprived musical city. Celebrating that music in Ibiza and then bringing it to Manchester. It was an interesting combination of ingredients. Acid House in Manchester was wild. It was such an explosion of great feeling and fueled by ecstasy. It was the nights, as you can see in the video, were made, whoa, you know. We loved everyone. We loved the world. And it was focused on Manchester. We couldn't believe our luck. Excuse me. It was the strangest thing in the world. But Manchester's resilience, its people, are able to celebrate their lives and take it out to the world, regardless of their environment. I was driving around Barcelona today, and I was thinking, oh my God, this place is beautiful. And I was just like, wow, what a gorgeous, gorgeous city. And you drive around Manchester, and it's still an absolute shithole. It's awful. And it's almost an embarrassment, you know, to you. And I suppose in a way it keeps us hungry. It keeps us focused on making sure we always want to escape to beautiful places like Barcelona. So there is that aspect that, you know, your environment has. But those years of Acid House, then Manchester, all being focused on the Haçienda as a club. And Manchester went right round the world. amazingly so. You know, it's a very proud feeling, but you don't understand. I don't understand why we, as a city, have been so lucky with the effect that we've had on the world. When I go to Brazil, Mexico, wherever I go around the world, oh my God, many, many places, everyone talks to me of 24-hour party people and Bez. You know, and you're like, how could, it's amazing the effect you've had on the world, it really is.
Vosaltres, de fet, vau anar a gravar un disc a Eivissa i, si no tinc mal entesos, hi vau estar 2 anys. Què va passar?
No, it felt like 2 years. No, it didn't. It wasn't 2 years. It was 5 months. We were supposed to be there for 6 weeks, and we ended up staying for 5 months.
Doncs deu ser això, la proporció devia ser aquesta. Doncs. Mira, el 2012, New Order, crec que tu ja no estaves a la banda, va tornar a Eivissa per un festival que es diu Ibiza Rock, y el diario de Ibiza deia: las estancias entre juergas y un estudio de grabación fue como pasaron su anterior estancia New Order en la isla. Eso fue en 1988 y el disco salió en 1989, Technique. Bien, el resultado es lo que hoy se escucha en muchas salas de la isla. És aquest orgull que tu expressaves d'alguna manera, no? de com, amb un moviment que es feia a Eivissa, Manchester va saber canalitzar-ho i fer-s'ho també seu a través d'un club com l'Haçienda, que era un bar, era una sala de concerts i era finalment, no? Que és quan jo crec que devia explotar un autèntic club, quan la gent aplaudia el DJ, no? Que allò fa 20 o 25 anys era una cosa completament nova.
Yes, we did create the DJ phenomenon of people celebrating the DJ as an artist. It's something I deeply regret. Yeah, I mean, you know, the guy, when all is said and done, was only playing a few records. When I became a DJ, I realized that there is an art, and you know, it's quite a high art to be able to please people through that medium. Yeah, I mean, it's bizarre. I mean, I don't actually understand it, because in Ibiza, when it began, and I was at Amnesia, the music was terrible. You know, it was awful. And even the drugs didn't actually hide that Alfredo was actually quite amateurish, if you like, in what he was doing. But he did it with passion, and he did it with enthusiasm, and it was something new. And I think that is what was interesting. It inspired a movement. And what happened was that when it was taken back to England, as it was with Shoom in London and Fabric, and then Haçienda in Manchester, there was an American influence added to it, and that became the acid house music that everybody loves. Now, acid house music and house music is really responsible now for, God, it must be 99% of music. It uses those ingredients. It's that important to music that most countries create. But the DJ phenomenon, you know, God is a DJ, they were just
Això sí
chances.
que continua passant a dia d'avui.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I deeply regret it, as I said. And most of them started at the Haçienda, you know, Paul Oakenfold, Carl Cox, Sasha, they were very instrumental, if you like, in the beginning of it at the Haçienda. But, I mean, it's a culture, you know, and when I used to club, and I go to clubs, if it's a great night, then you thank the DJ. If it's a shit night, for whatever reason, you blame the DJ. It's one of those strange things, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, considering our inauspicious start of when the DJ in the Haçienda was actually in the basement, and he had a little window on the dance floor that he used to look out of to see people's feet, to see if they were dancing. We have certainly come a long way from that moment. Yeah, it was very inauspicious.
El temps passa terriblement ràpid, així que jo demanaria als companys avançar una mica, perquè amb tota la intenció hem omès un capítol cabdal en tota aquesta història, perquè sense aquest capítol no sabem exactament què hauria passat, potser no hauria existit New Order, potser no hauríeu estat cofundadors i socis de Haçienda, vés a saber si s'hagués creat Haçienda o no, i és el tràgic desenllaç del teu company, de l'Ian Curtis, i que la pel·lícula Control retratava d'aquesta manera. No sé la fidelitat d'aquesta escena que esteu tot el grup de Joy Division després de rebre la tràgica notícia de la mort del Curtis. Clar, éreu molt joves, estàveu a poques hores o pocs dies de començar una gira cap als Estats Units, que vés a saber què hauria aconseguit aquella gira amb el grup de Joy Division, no? Com veu superar-ho, allò, per fer New Order amb relativament poc temps? Quina va ser l'energia que vau tenir?
When Ian died, the shock, like anybody who's suffered anything like that, I'm not the only one, is terrible. We did have a strength from being together, and that enabled us to get through. And I think the thing is that we were indulged a little bit. We were going, don't worry, you don't have to go and see him. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. And one of the biggest things I regret is not going to see Ian after he died. I will always regret that, to pay my respects. That was a really stupid mistake, but you were allowed to do it. We were young, as you said, and we were excused. The interesting thing about being young is that you do think that someone is going to take everything off you. If you don't carry on, it'll disappear. That isn't true. I've been a musician for 43 years. I didn't need to go straight into New Order. We didn't need to go straight to America. We could have had 6 months off. We could have grieved properly and respectfully instead of ignoring it. I realise that now, but then I didn't. And we all went along with it. I mean, the truly shocking thing about that film is that I didn't used to smoke. And yet, every film I see, I smoke. And I'm like, I don't fucking smoke. So let that be a lesson to you. The strange thing is that by throwing ourselves into New Order, we were able to ignore the pain and the grief. And we had a new focus, and Tony Wilson and Rob Gretton pushed us. Come on, come on, come on. Every time we maybe got tearful or got melancholy, he'd go, no time for that. Come on, got to go to America. And you were like, oh. I don't think it was the correct thing to do now. Now I would have said, had 6 months off, grieve properly, grieve respectfully, and then start again. It wouldn't have made any difference. But at that point in time, it served us, and it also served the people around us to keep us working. So, yeah, that's what happened then. I mean, it worked, you know. I mean, we didn't play any Joy Division songs for 30 years. We played Love Will Tear Us Apart occasionally, someone's birthday, or something like that, but we ignored it. And it enabled us to make New Order a huge international success because we focused and didn't look back. So it worked in that regard. And for a few years, New Order were actually much more important than Joy Division. But Joy Division caught up and now are more important in many ways. You know, it's a very glamorous thing. It's a cliche in rock and roll. You know, live fast, die young. And so many rock stars are lost. And it's a great shame. I mean, I do think I know what happened to Ian. And I don't think that it had much to do with the group, if the truth be known. You know, as a human being and as a man and as a father and as a husband, I can look at him now and say, well, the group was probably a small part of it. The other relationships were much more important. And I think, if anything, the fact that he never got any help with those other relationships were probably the problem. The group was actually, we supported each other very well. And Ian was always the main cheerleader for the group. If you were feeling down about the group, it was always Ian that would pick you up. Come on! You know, always. So I do feel now, as a man, that it was other factors that led to his demise, if you like. I mean, the biggest problem was the treatment of epilepsy. The way epilepsy as a disease was treated in those days was barbaric and bears no resemblance to how it's treated now, where it can be actually a quite successful treatment. It was ignorance, lack of experience from a medical point of view, you know, and it is, I've lost many, many friends, male and female, over the years to suicide. And it is something that you cannot, you can't take it in until it happens to you. You know, so as an onlooker, you can only marvel, wonder what makes people do it. But when people are in that situation, they feel it is the only answer. You know, it's called a long-term solution to a short-term problem. And it's very true. But when it's your problem, it's all-encompassing. So, yeah, I mean, I regret every day not being there for him, you know, to help him. I was with him the night before he killed himself. And honestly, on that night, when I looked at him, I saw one of the happiest human beings I had ever seen. Me and him were bouncing around, so excited about going to America. You would never have believed that that guy on Friday night was the same guy on Saturday night that took his own life. So that, it was really, you know, for you on Sunday to go, to try and make sense of it, it's absolutely impossible. But yeah, you know, I mean, I don't know. I count myself as very lucky. I go out now and I play Joy Division's music to celebrate his life however short it was. It's, to me, he created something wonderful for us all that has lasted, and he's there when we need it. When I need it, like next Saturday night, I'll go out and I'll play Joy Division, and I will fucking rock it, and it'll be for him, you know, and that's what I take with me all the time, is the power and the beauty of Joy Division. Not that bit. That bit lurks, but...
Ja. Però en quina edat el vas conèixer, tu, Lion?
Yeah, we met at the third Sex Pistols concert in Manchester. And you couldn't miss him because on the back of his jacket in bright orange letters, it said hate. And the odd thing was that if you saw Ian Curtis from the front and said, "What's this guy got on his back?" you'd go, "Kittens, or chocolates, flowers," and he'd turn around, he's got hate. It was very incongruous with him as a person, but it was about us all showing our inner anger at being teenagers, coming out into the world, not knowing what we wanted to do or our place in the world. You know, it was all about that frustration. He was a really nice guy, and we all talked about the same thing, which was our bands. He had a band, and he had a guitarist and a drummer, and we had a band, Bernard and I, and we had a guitarist and a bass player, so we couldn't get together, 2 guitarists. So we had to wait, literally, until Ian's band dissolved, and then he came to us. It's interesting because when you talk about memory, both Bernard and Stephen remember Ian joining Joy Division completely differently. I shouldn't be surprised at that. But they do. They say we advertised, and he answered the advert. But as I remember it, we used to see him at all the concerts. So it would have been easy to say, "Oh, you know, you're looking for a vocalist. We're looking for a guitarist and a bass player." It was like, to me, that's how I thought we met. But it doesn't matter, because we did. And we went on to be great friends, great colleagues, and created something amazing. You know, the chemistry for 4 people to get together and then to be able to... What I love about groups that are acoustic is I love the moment before you play, when you're all stood there, like with the light. I actually savor the moment of standing there with my friends, silence, and then you play, and it's a wonderful moment. And I wish in Joy Division I would have savored it more. Because the wonderful thing is that we had no money, we had no tape recorder, we'd never been recorded. So the only time that Joy Division existed was when we played. And that is really, you know, now in this world, that is a really weird thought. The only time you existed was when the 4 of you played together. And each member brought something absolutely unique to the group. And that combination was really powerful, amazingly, and very equal. I have never been in a group like Joy Division since Joy Division. Never. New Order was completely different. And yeah, everything in Joy Division felt very natural. And I suppose it brings it round, you know, I mean, the Haçienda was only there because Joy Division paid for it. Because New Order had no money. And one thing I learned from the book was that without Ian, we wouldn't have had those opportunities. And he never got the chance to enjoy it, you know, never. And that's what upsets me as a father. You know, he's never seen his daughter grow up. Those wonderful moments that you all have, that I've had, those are the things that hurt as life goes on. You know, so it's quite sobering.
Tu deies que ara que han passat els anys i mires enrere, està clar que quan un es fa gran, no, va incorporant experiències i clar, revisa el que va fer en els anys de joventut. Però els anys i la vida també són capaços d'espatllar-ho absolutament tot. Tu fa des del 2011 que no actues, que no estàs dins de New Order, tens la teva pròpia banda, Peter Hook and the Light. Jo crec que hi ha molta gent que encara no... Aquesta part de la teva història no la té present. Quina és la teva actual relació amb els que han estat els teus amics des de la infantesa, la joventut, no?
Well, they certainly aren't friends. No, our relationship is probably, thinking about it, probably too deep. And it's almost like a family feud, the way that only families can be so horrible to each other. Friends aren't generally that horrible to each other in the way that families can be, and I think all of us can probably testify to that, sadly. You know, I think the thing is that in any relationship, people change. And as they get older, their interests, their values, their ambitions change. And, you know, I mean, I've had a few relationships. I don't know if you have. I hope not. But, you know, 1 minute you're together, and then the next minute you're like that. And you can't see a way back. And that's what happened. In 2007, I had different ambitions for New Order. I had different ambitions for the music, for the way the band was operated, the way that we used our assets, if you like. And Bernard didn't agree. And I couldn't carry on in that relationship. It was breaking my heart. And it was so frustrating that I just couldn't carry on. It's all in the New Order book. I don't want to go. It's not in Spanish yet, sadly, but if you want really depressing, when it does get translated to Spanish, you can be really depressed by the New Order book. You know, so it just was gone too far, and I couldn't see a middle ground. And I thought Steve agreed with me, because that's what he told me. As it turned out, when we split up, it turned out he agreed with Barney. Oh, that was a bit weird. So it's one of those odd ones. But I mean, I do think that, you know, for all we've achieved, we should be able to slap each other on the back and go, God, you know what? We might not be together now, but didn't we do well? You know, it's that aspect that I find very sad. That if I saw him in the street, and we live in the same village, would you believe? Half a mile away from each other. I'd never seen him. But yeah, you know, if I did see him, I wouldn't be able to wish him well. And that is really because of how we worked and how we suffered and how we achieved together. That is really sad. It really is, yeah. But, you know, it's life. Isn't it?
L'amor.
It's all
no?
we've got.
L'amor que sempre ens estripa. Love will tear us apart.
It's love and life. And yeah, I suppose once the sex is gone, then that's...
Anyone has changed the world, being normal.
Thank you.